Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to first welcome all of us to this symposium today. Again, also apologize for starting a bit late than planned. We'd like to begin straight as we have now with us the President and Chairman of Council of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, FCA, with us. We'd like to begin right now. Please, as our custom is, we do start our event here at SCCI with the rendition of our national anthem. Please do us a favor, Nigeria a favor, as you stand to your feet, for us to take the national anthem as we start.
Drive and sun may differ, in brotherhood we stand. By gentle and proud to serve, our sovereign fatherland.
Thank you so much. Please do have your seat. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of us to the Petroleum Downstream Group Symposium of the SCCI for 2025. As you can see, this is the gathering of stakeholders in the industry and experts. We will be having a good time having presentation and representative here today. I'd like to recognize the presence of the President and Chairman of Council of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Put your hands together for Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, FCA. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. We also have with us today is an honor to recognize the presence of the immediate past president of the SCCI, Asiwaju Omoba, Dr. Michael Olale Cole, CON MFR. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. He's the alumni of the University of Lagos, University of First. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. We'd like to also recognize the presence of the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, my direct boss, Dr. Chinyere Peace Almona, FCA. Let's put hands together for her, please. Thank you, ma, for showing up. We'd like to also recognize the presence of the chair of the Petroleum Downstream Group here at SCCI, my brother and friend, Mr. Collins Obu. Let's put hands together for him. Thank you, Mr. Collins, for all that you do. We also have with us this morning, though ably represented, Engineer Farouk Ahmed, the Authority Chief Executive of the Nigerian Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, represented this morning by Mr. Ibrahim Dimowo, Deputy Director and Regional Head. Let's put hands together for Mr. Ibrahim, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you. With us this morning also, we have the Dr. Abubakar Dan Soto. Let's put hands together for Dr. Abubakar. Is he here? The Managing Director, Nigerian Port Authority. Is he in? Okay. So let me go quickly to what is next. I will do most of the recognitions as I have the complete list, but I'm told we have Mr. Oluwole Adama, also ably represented this morning by Mr. Evis Duruji. Is he in? Okay, he's going to be without visual. Okay. All right, so let's have the welcome remark by Mr. Obu so that we can set the event today properly rolling. Let's make welcome Mr. Collins Obu, the chair of the Petroleum Downstream Group here at SCCI, for his welcome address. Let's clap for Mr. Collins, please.
The presence of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Gabriel Idahosa, Director General of the SCCI, Dr. Chinyere Anmola, our former Director, President General of SCCI. Welcome, sir. The distinguished SCCI Council members here present, our guest speakers, the Authority Chief Executive, MDPRA, Engineer Farouk, being represented by Dimowo, The managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority is actually on his way here. He will soon be here. Once he's here, we'll let you people know. The executive vice president downstream of NNPC is ably represented here too. The group managing director, Rain Oil, is represented by Emmanuel. The executive director, MDGIF, is actually going to speak online, but we have to recognize him. I think they have joined us online. The chairman of Merman, ably represented here. Chairman of DAPMA, represented by ES of DAPMA. All stakeholders here present. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our utmost pleasure to welcome you to this year's SCCI Petroleum Downstream Group Conference with the theme Scaling Oil Production and Refining Capacity in Nigeria, Investments, Regulations, and Pricing. Petroleum downstream sector is one of the key sectors of SCCI with objective of promoting and enhancing public awareness of the industry commitment to implementing necessary measures that protect both the sector and the public. We debate on important emerging issues that shape the dynamics of the industry at every given time. Before choosing this topic, it was really difficult for us because every day things change in the downstream sector. Last month was issue between Pegasin and Dangote. One before the last, DAPMA and Dangote. So every week, one thing or the other. So it's difficult to actually pick up a topic that will embrace everybody. So in that case, we'll have to invite NMDPRA to come and enlighten us on the state of downstream regulation, which they are saddled with the main issue of regulating the industry in Nigeria. They will tell us the progress made, the challenges impacting energy security and market stability. They will also share their strategy for maintaining product availability, implementing licensing reforms, regulating prices, and effectively addressing ongoing concerns among stakeholders. We also have the Executive Vice President downstream of NNPC, who will deliver a brief on the state of nation's state-owned refinery and the continuous and often contentious issues of their turnaround maintenance time that has been going on for some time now. The discussion will explore the billions of dollars spent on these facilities with little or no result, the challenges of political interference and poor management, the possible pathway to sustainable progress. In the panel, they will also examine the viability of this refinery in an era of private sector dominance and their potential role in full liberalized market. We are going to have online Executive Director, MDGIF. MDGIF is actually the main downstream investors, gas investors trust fund, infrastructure fund, where you have opportunities to know what are those things available in Nigeria where you can invest, where government can partner with you to invest. So through that, they will tell us how PIA is being implemented, how successful is PIA, from policy to performance, examining the transformative impact of Petroleum Industry Act on Nigeria's oil and gas landscape. The MDGF will highlight the opportunities available for investors in the downstream sector, outlining both the investment prospects and the institutional support for mechanism and put in place. The discussion will also focus on improved investment framework, measurable outcome in downstream operations since the implementation of PIA. We're going to have a panel session which will explore the urgent need to socialize robust, transparent, and impartial dispute resolution framework that can preempt industrial disruption, foster investors' confidence. It will examine the role of mediation, arbitration in resolving labor and commercial conflicts, while also evaluating how legislative oversight can enforce accountability, fairness, and sectoral stability. The panelists will further discuss the ongoing tension between continued fuel importation and the protection of the local refinery, exploring possible legislative and regulatory solutions. This conversation is particularly timely given the current practice of a fully regulated downstream sector operating on a willing buyer, willing seller basis, which still presents risk of market concentration and monopoly tolerance. we begin today's conference, I encourage all of us to engage openly, contribute meaningfully to the discussions ahead. The insight we gather here will no doubt help chart a clear path towards a more vibrant, competitive, and sustainable downstream industry. Once again, on behalf of the Petroleum Downstream of Nigeria, of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I warmly welcome you all to this year's conference. I look forward to fruitful deliberation, impactful outcome. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Collins. With the focus today being read out by Mr. Collins, the chair, is clear, having chaired the clear part for us of the discussion today. As you could see on the order of program, today is loaded, and I'm happy to be present. I am sure you are also to be in an event like this. We're going to have about 3 different speakers, a presentation, as well as a panel session to be moderated or coordinated by industry leaders. Let me quickly recognize the presence of some of our leaders, as I'm told, that are here present. We have with us the MD NNPC refineries. Put your hands together for our brother Bayo Adenrele. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. We also have with us this morning Mr. Oluwole Adama. I'm told he's ably represented here this morning by Mr. Evis Duruji. Okay, Vashua, all right. Dr. Gabriel Ogweshe ON, Group Managing Director, Reynolds Gas Limited, ably represented by Mr. Emmanuel Omujine, Managing Director, Reynolds Gas Limited. Let's put hands together for Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Moroti Adedoyin Adeyinka, Chair, Depot Petroleum Product Marketer Association of Nigeria, ably represented by Mr. Olufemi Adewole, the Executive Secretary of the Association. Let's put hands together for Mr. Olufemi. Thank you, sir. Mr. Olufemi is in his white today. I was expecting the Emilio Concap, sir. All right, thank you so much. We have also with us Mr. Ab Stockman, Chair of the Major Oil Market Association of Nigeria, ably represented today by Mrs. Ogechi Nwoji. Let's put hands together for Mrs. Nwoji. Thank you, man. Thank you for... I'm happy that we have a woman representing a man. Very well. Thank you. Thank you. Last but not the least, we have Dr. Emeka Kabogu, SAN, Senior Partner at Kabogu and Associate. Let's put hands together for Mr. Emeka. Thank you, sir. I know he's a big man. When he walked in, Collins has to stand up to really shake him. Thank you so much, Dr. Emeka, for showing up. All right, so we'd like to have the opening remarks by our President and Chairman of Council here at Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Please put your hands together heavily for my president, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, for his opening remarks.
The immediate past president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Asiwaju Michael Olaolekan, CON. We are really honored to have you here with us today. The leadership of the regulatory agencies, Engineer Farouk Ahmed, ably represented by Mr. Ibrahim Demo, Deputy Director, Distribution Systems, and the Executive Vice President of NNPC, ably represented by Mr. Bayo Adenrele, and the rest of the regulatory agencies that have earlier been introduced. The leadership of the industry, the downstream industry, most of the major players of the industry are in the room. Then the organizations in that space, the MEMAN, the DAPMAN, all of you are here, and we really welcome you. And we are very happy that you are here to lead this conversation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to welcome you all to this annual symposium of the LCCI Petroleum Downstream Group, which is themed Scaling Oil Production and Refining Capacity in Nigeria, Investments, Regulation, and Pricing I think one of the things that have happened in the last 2 years is that Nigeria has placed itself right in the center of the global refining downstream business very effectively, to the extent that we had the Platts coming to Nigeria to have a conference in Abuja. I think the industry has changed in a way that was not even conceived even 2-3 years ago. That Nigeria is now a refining and a downstream powerhouse. And whichever way it happened, we are happy to be in that good place. So this theme could not have come at a more critical time in our national economic journey, as we stand at the intersection of immense potential and the persistent paradox of Nigeria being a country of potentials. Almost every sector, you say Nigeria has potential. Up until now, Nigeria was a potential oil refining country. In the mining industry, we are potential mining giants. In the manufacturing, we were a potential manufacturing giant. But at least in the world of refining now, we are not just a potential refining country. We are now an actual refining country. So that's a complete transformation for Nigeria in that space. And I think it's something that we, the players in the industry and the regulators, now have to build on very rapidly, so that we don't remain a potential major refining hub in Africa. Perhaps 30 years ago, the Niger Delta should be looking like Houston, the coastline of Houston, 30 years ago, with several refineries, petrochemicals, and everything. But anytime you wake up is your morning. So we are happy that perhaps now we are in our morning of complete value creation right here in Nigeria. And Niger Delta region is one of the major petroleum refining and petrochemical regions of the world. And that can only happen if you, sitting in this room, both on the operation side and the regulatory side, decide that this is the time. And what we are saying in LCCI, that we are here to play our role, our advocacy role, our engagement role, to see that all the players in the industry can come together and address all the challenges that needs to be addressed. So for over 6 decades, Nigeria has remained one of Africa's leading oil producers. We just bring the oil from the ground and send it to all over the world. Yet we continue to depend heavily on imported refined products, a situation that drains our foreign exchange, stifles industrial growth, and perpetuates inefficiencies in our energy system, stifles industrial growth, and ensures that we don't get the full benefits of these natural resources. The demonstration of local refining capacity in Nigeria by refining giants and several modular refineries marks a monumental step forward, correcting this imbalance and restoring Nigeria's refining sovereignty. This for us is not only an engineering marvel, but a testament to Nigerian enterprise, innovation, and resilience. It is a demonstration that private sector, when supported by the proper policy framework, can deliver transformative national impact. However, the short private refinery journey, short in quote, private refining journey, has equally illuminated deep-seated structural and institutional obstacles confronting domestic industrialization, from crude allocation challenges and regulatory delays to union pressures and subtle international resistance. Our local refining operation reflects the complex interplay of interests that shape our energy landscape. Securing adequate feedstock supply has often been hindered by conflicting export priorities and procedural bottlenecks, while labor dynamics, though rooted in legitimate advocacy, sometimes escalate into disruptions that affect efficiency and output. Moreover, global market forces, some driven by long-standing beneficiaries of Nigeria's import dependence, have occasionally influence pricing structures and policy pressures in ways that challenge local operators. And we are very familiar with that story. These experiences underscore an urgent need for coherence, fairness, and strategic protection of national industrial interests within an open but equitable market framework. Scaling oil production and refining capacity in Nigeria therefore requires more than infrastructure. It demands confidence, investment confidence, anchored on predictable regulation, credible enforcement, and transparent governance. The Petroleum Industry Act provides a strong foundation for that to happen. Yet its full implementation must be accelerated to ensure that incentives, crude allocation, and fiscal policies are applied consistently without ambiguity or favoritism. We must also ensure that pricing policies reflect economic reality. Subsidy distortions have long undermined the viability of our downstream operations. Hence, deregulation, though challenging, remains indispensable for a sustainable energy future. The government's role should evolve from price control to price supervision, ensuring transparency, fairness, and consumer protection, while allowing market mechanisms to attract investment and drive competition. In this process, regulators like the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission must operate in harmony, eliminating overlaps, bureaucratic duplication, and inconsistent directives that frustrate investors. At the same time, we must strengthen labor-industry collaboration. Unions are indispensable partners in national development, but engagement must be constructive, solution-driven, and anchored on shared prosperity. The private sector, in turn, must uphold global standards of labor welfare, safety, and continuous skill development. Beyond local dynamics, Nigeria must also navigate the influencing of global energy politics. As the world transitions towards cleaner fuels, international actors, ranging from oil traders to financiers and environmental advocates, will continue to shape narratives around our energy policies. We must engage them strategically with clarity of purpose, ensuring that foreign collaboration complements, not compromises, our domestic growth agenda. Our refining ecosystem must integrate sustainability, embracing cleaner fuels, gas-based feedstocks, and advanced process technologies that align with global decarbonization goals. To sustain this ecosystem, we must invest in critical enablers, pipeline security, efficient logistics, stable power supply support to the industry, and world-class technical education. Nigerian engineers, geoscientists, and process technicians must be equipped not just to operate facilities, but to innovate within those facilities. The local content should evolve from mere procurement quotas to actual technological ownership and value creation. In this broader vision, the Dangote refinery experience serves as both a milestone and a mirror, showing us what is possible when ambition meets execution, but also exposing where reforms must be deepened to ensure that no future investor faces the same hurdles. As we seek to scale production and refining capacity, let us commit to concrete actions, guarantee transparent access to crude for local refineries, sustained deregulation with targeted social protections, streamlined regulatory oversight, protect domestic refiners from unfair foreign manipulation, incentivize modular refineries, and integrate gas and renewable energy into our transition strategy. Suppose we align investment, innovation, and policy coherence. What will happen? In that case, Nigeria can become not just self-sufficient in refined products, because that really is a very modest ambition, but a regional refining powerhouse, an exporter of petrochemicals, and a hub for energy technology across Africa. Distinguished guests, this vision is not beyond our reach. It requires courage, discipline, and sustained collaboration between government, industry, and labor. On behalf of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I commend the Petroleum Downstream Group for convening this timely symposium, and I call on all stakeholders to act decisively in translating our immense wealth into real economic prosperity, not just for Nigeria, really, but for Africa. Together, we can secure an energy future that is sustainable, self-reliant, and globally competitive. I thank you for your attention.
Once again, thank you, Mr. President, for that opening remarks. I consider very appropriate. And our commitment is together to secure an energy future for Nigeria. Thank you so much, sir. Right? We will delve fully into the business of the day, having our guest speakers coming to deal with the topics as we have for them. But let me quickly recognize the presence of the Group Managing Director of the Swift Oil Limited, Mr. Stilian Mitekivi, right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're welcome. All right. So we'd like to have the first guest speaker who will be dealing with the topic enabling the growth of domestic refining capacity and creation of West African regional hub through efficient regulatory framework. This morning, the speaker is Engineer Farouk Ahmed, who is ably represented by Mr. Ibrahim Dimowo. He's a deputy in the regional office of NMDPRA. Put your hands together for Mr. Ibrahim as he comes in for his presentation. We're not clapping for Mr. Ibrahim now. It's only my president that is clapping. Thank you, Dimowo. Thank you, sir.
The president and chairman, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Mr. Gabriel Idahosa, all other protocols duly observed. I come with the greetings, warm greetings of Engineer Farouk Ahmed. He would have loved to be here, but some other national assignments that he could not avoid took him away. He sends his warm regards. I would deliver his address. Enabling the growth of domestic refining capacities and creation of West Africa regional hub through effective regulatory frameworks. That's the theme of the conference that we are having today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege and a profound honor to stand before you today, representing the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, at this very important occasion where we gather to deliberate on how Nigeria, and indeed West Africa, can transition from dependence to leadership in refining. The theme resonates deeply, enabling the growth of domestic refining capacities and creating a West Africa regional hub through effective regulatory frameworks. Let me begin by setting the scene. Nigeria has been a global crude producing nation for decades. In 2024, our country averaged approximately 1.48 million barrels per day of crude oil production, maintaining its status among Africa's top producers. Yet, our refining and downstream sector has for too long been characterized by import dependence, underutilized state-owned refineries, and inefficiencies. That situation has exposed our economy to foreign exchange pressure, supply disruptions, added opportunities. Today, significant change is underway. We are witnessing the emergence of large-scale private investments in refining, modular refineries, and a regulatory regime that is evolving to match new realities. For example, the regional refining capacity in West Africa is now reported at about 1.335 million barrels per day, a figure covering Nigeria and partner states, signaling our collective potential to serve not just domestic demand, but regional markets. At the same time, recent in-house data indicates that petrol import volumes in Nigeria have fallen sharply from about 93% in September 2024 to 57% in September 2025, while domestic production, that is domestic refining, rose from a modest 3.62 million liters per day to about 27.5 million liters per day in the same period, with domestic supply averaging 20 million liters per day across the year. These numbers show a meaningful shift, albeit one that must be sustained, institutionalized, and scaled. Our vision is bold: to transform Nigeria not simply into a self-sufficient refining nation, but into the regional hub for refined petroleum products for West Africa. Why? Because the West African market, inclusive of ECOWAS member states, represents hundreds of millions of consumers whose demand for quality fuels, reliable supply chains, and competitive pricing is growing. By harnessing our scale, by creating robust distribution networks, depots, pipelines, terminals, and by aligning with regional partners through a harmonized regulation and cross-border trade, we can capture the value chain, ensure energy security, and drive economic growth for the region. Realizing this vision, however, demands more than ambition. It demands a regulatory regime that is agile, transparent, investment-friendly, and ideally regional in scope. At NMDPRA, we have three interlocking priorities: licensing and investments, standards, oversights, and transparency, regional integration, and market creation. I'll take them one after the other. Licensing and investments. We are streamlining the licensing of refining, storage, and distribution facilities, simplifying approvals, and providing clarity on feedstock supply. In this case, crude oil supply, tariff structures, and product offtake mechanisms. Over the past year, NMDPRA has issued 47 licenses for new local refineries, a clear signal of how regulatory clarity is encouraging investment. 2, standards, oversight, and transparency. We have launched a package of 18 new petroleum sector regulations aimed at boosting domestic refining, ensuring product quality, protecting the environment, and attracting investor confidence. We are also partnering with international price insight bodies. For instance, Nigeria has partnered with S&P Global Commodity Insights to establish a West Africa specific petroleum pricing benchmark, a major step towards making our region more transparent, competitive, and investable. The third one, regional integration and market creation. We are working to harmonize product standards, quality specifications, trade licenses, and pricing frameworks with partner countries. Just recently, the West African Regulators Forum and a technical working group were constituted to coordinate a regional roadmap for refining capacity expansion and harmonized frameworks. Having said this, however, the path ahead is not without its challenges. Part of the challenges are as follows. Feedstock supply. We must guarantee feedstock supply for domestic refineries. That means crude allocation, pipeline logistics, gas supplies for utilities. Economies of scale. We must ensure economies of scale. Refining is capex intensive. To become regionally competitive, we must minimize costs, improve utilization levels, and ensure asset sustainability. Depth of infrastructure. We must secure depth of infrastructure, storage, export, import terminals, distribution pipelines, and hinterland connectivity across West Africa. Environmental, social, and governance, ESG considerations. We must embed environmental, social, and governance considerations, ensuring our refining boom is sustainable, inclusive, and socially responsible. Digitalization and data transparency. We must adopt digitalization and data transparency from licensing to product tracking down to the pricing as well as enforcement. I'll now outline some concrete steps that NMDPRA is championing. We have about 6 of them. The first one, supports existing modular and large-scale refineries, assisting in achieving optimal capacity through technical oversight, proper licensing, performance monitoring, and incentives. The second one, incentive regime for new entrants and expansions, reduced regulatory bottlenecks, tax regime clarity, feedstock assurance mechanisms. The third one, cross-border trade framework. We would spearhead the creation of a West Africa refined products exchange, anchored in Nigeria, but open to Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Niger, Senegal, leveraging the regional capacity of 1.335 million barrels per day. The fourth one, standardization and regional product quality harmonization. Product specs, environmental compliance rules, inspection protocols. would also ensure the establishment of a regional pricing index in collaboration with S&P Global, ensuring that refined product pricing reflects West African market realities and thereby enhances investments and competitiveness. Lastly, strategic storage and buffer stock regime. Utilizing domestic refining to build outbound logistics into neighboring markets and capitalizing on export opportunities. What will this deliver? That is, what would the 6 things that we'll be championing, what would they deliver? What are they expected to achieve? Number 1, energy security. We hope that there will be reduced import dependence, stable domestic supply, and very, very few fuel shortages, if at all. Economic value addition. We also intend that the 6 steps that NMDPRA will be championing would assure and ensure the retaining refining margins in country, job creation, downstream industrialization, not only in petroleum products, but also in petrochemicals, lubricants, as well as plastics. Regional leadership. Nigeria is positioned, I'll take that again. Nigeria positioned as the hub with spillover benefits for neighboring states via exports and trade. Investor confidence. With robust regulatory frameworks and regional integration, new capital will flow into domestic, regional, and also globally. Resilience. A diversified market would ensure a diversified market, flexible supply routes, strategic product stockpiles, as well as mitigating external shocks. In conclusion, the journey from import dependence to regional refining leadership is within our grasp, but it demands vision, regulatory discipline, collaboration, and speed. NMDPRA stands ready to lead, to craft and administer the frameworks, to guide the industry players, to coordinate with regional counterparts, and to ensure that regulatory certainty becomes the foundation of our ambition. Let us seize this moment. Let us build the domestic refining capacities, not just for Nigeria, but for West Africa as a whole. Let us create a hub that transforms markets, supports industry, creates jobs, assures supply, and deliver prosperity. Thank you for your time, your partnership, and your commitments. Together, we will deliver a new era of refining and regional growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, let's put our hands together for Mr. Ibrahim for a good representative or being a good representative of Engineer Farouk Ahmed. All right, thank you so much. As you could see on your program of activity, we are supposed to have the second speaker. I'm told is not in yet, so we move to what is next, which is the guest speaker 3. Who will be dealing with domestic refining and energy security, impact of deregulation and market liberalization on downstream operations. We will have the representative of the Executive Vice President, EVP, Downstream Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Mr. Muminin Dagazo, who is here ably represented by Mr. Bayo A. Adenrele, the refinery coordinator, NLPC.
Okay, good afternoon all. And thanks for having NNPC at this very important event. First and foremost, I would like to stand on existing protocol and say thank you to the President and the immediate past President for inviting NNPC to this significant event. Standing here representing my boss, the Executive Vice President Downstream, Dr. Momoni Dagazao, who sends his regards. Warm regards to you all. He would have been here together with myself or himself alone, but he's unavoidably absent. I'll just be speaking to the topic on domestic refining and energy security. And NNPC has been on the forefront of this over the years, over the past 40, 50 years. And as the last resort for energy security in the country, at NNPC, we do not take this responsibility lightly. That is why we in Downstream, we've been working with various stakeholders and regulators to achieve this mandate. And we remain committed to this mandate. A very good topic, deregulation and market liberalization in Downstream. This has been going on for years in phases, but it came to an end last year when the PMS market was fully deregulated. This liberalization and downstream of the downstream has helped Nigeria increase efficiency and attract investments and lower consumer prices. So it's become a competitive market right now. But this can only be successful if accompanied by strong institutions, careful sequencing, which we have been doing in Nigeria, and NNPC has been supporting this, and targeted safeguards. Without those levers, rapid liberalization risks supply instability, market concentration, underinvestment in infrastructure, and that's why at NNPC we are making significant investments in infrastructure, both in our downstream pipelines and storage and the refineries. And also, it could lead to painful price shocks to the consumers, which is the Nigerian public. A phased and transparent liberalization that strengthens market monitoring, retains strategic reserves, and supports vulnerable groups, delivers the best results for domestic refining capability and national energy security. Some of the key mechanisms on how liberation affects the downstream operations are several, but I'll just take a few. Price signals and allocation of capital, where the removal of administered price allows the market to guide investment decisions and refinery expansions, maintenance, storage, and pipeline infrastructure development. Also, another lever is the competition and efficiency, where private refiners, and if you look at it in the past 4 or 5 years, there's been influx of private refiners, both in the modular sector and in the full refining sector, and trading companies coming into the market, independent retailers, which has increased operational efficiency, invariably dropping the cost of the products and improve logistics. Then one of the other things is the supply chain diversification, where a liberalized market has enabled broader import sources and private trading, reducing single supplier risk. On the domestic refining capacity scene, there has been several positive outcomes and impacts. This has created, for example, investment stimulus, where clear commercial pricing and predictable regulatory frameworks have attracted private and foreign capital to build and upgrade refineries. And if you look at the modular space, the growth has been significant with Aradel, Ezekiel coming in, and Walter Smith playing in that arena. One of the other things is the operational upgrades, leading to competition, encouraging modernization, and improving product slate and quality compliance. But again, in every positive outcome, there are risks and unintended consequences, some of which could lead to stranded assets and mothballing. Smaller or inefficient refineries may close if they can't compete with cheaper imports, reducing domestic refining capacity. Another thing on the negative side would be the underinvestment in maintenance. If margins are not compressed or credit is constrained, refineries may defer maintenance, increasing risk of outages and spills. Not only that, you have low utilization of the refineries as well. And when you don't operate at that high utilization, your yield becomes compromised. One of the other negative outcomes could be market concentration. Without competition safeguards, a few integrated players could dominate the refining to retail chains, pricing outcomes. In a net effect, liberalization raises the probability of better capitalized, efficient refineries, but only where financial markets, predictable policy, and fair competition exist. Also, this has an impact on energy security, and there are several improvement pathways, which are to diverse import sources and private trading, reducing single supplier vulnerability, commercialization of the reserves, private storage incentives, and increased available buffers. If you look at the key policy frameworks, over the years, there have been several key policy frameworks that has helped and also helping the liberalization of the downstream sector. I'll talk about 3. The first one is the removal of petroleum subsidy. The government's decision to eliminate the subsidy on premium motor spirit, the PMS, is the cornerstone of this deregulation. This move is designed to free up significant fiscal resources and allow for market reflective pricing, thereby encouraging private investment. Another one is the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021. This landmark legislation fundamentally restructured the governance and physical framework of the industry, creating 2 regulatory agencies that we as NNPC have been working with over the years, NUPRC and the NMDPRA, to provide clarity and streamline licensing and operations. One of the key other levers which the government introduced and NNPC is backing up solidly is the domestic crude supply obligation, a key provision in the PIA, which mandates crude oil producers to prioritize the sale of a certain volume of their domestic crude to refiners before exportation. This is a critical mechanism intended to ensure feedstock security for local refining, and NNPC has been backing this up. In a nutshell, for all this liberalization to work in the downstream, there are several critical success factors. One of which is the clear independent regulator, which the NNDPRA and the NUPRC has been carrying out, making sure competition enforcement, licensing, and also safety oversight. Another critical success factor is the transparent tariff and access rules, where third party can access pipelines, terminals, and storage under clear commercial terms, preventing vertical foreclosure. Another one is the gradualism and sequencing, where pilot liberalization, progressive retail price freedom, and private refit of refineries would allow this to succeed. One of the most important things is consumer protection. It's good to have that consumer protection lever, where price stabilization funds, targeted cash transfers, or temporary subsidies for vulnerable groups is put in place. Without all this, when you're doing all this liberalization, you need to have what we call KPIs. And that would enable you to look at how effective all these policy frameworks, how all these levers are working. One of the most important things for a refiner like myself is utilization of the asset. As much as possible, it's maintaining that high utilization above 90%, then you can have better yield optimization. In conclusion, deregulation and market liberalization can strengthen domestic refining efficiency and national energy security, but only when they are implemented alongside capable regulation, phased sequencing, social protection, and infrastructure measures. Policymakers must trade off short-term political cost against long-term supply resilience and private investment. With the right design, liberalization becomes a tool to transition from a state-run subsidy-heavy system to a resilient, competitive, and investment-friendly downstream sector. Deregulation and market liberalization have been indispensable steps towards resolving Nigeria's long-standing energy security crisis. By encouraging private investment, particularly in domestic refining, the government has created the potential for sustainable product supply and physical stability. However, the realization of full energy security hinges on decisively addressing the operational and policy gaps in the liberalized environment, and also continuous improvement. Thank you for listening, and that's all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bayo, for that session. I believe as we move very fast to the panel sessions, we will be having more of these revelations as we go on. So we'd like to have the virtual presentation by the Executive Director, Mainstream and Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund. Please, let's confirm, our technical team, that we have him with us now. Please, let's confirm before we bring him up. Mr. Eves Duruji, if he's in.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Eves.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you so much. We are now at your session, so we await you for your presentation. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you. I have a PowerPoint. Is there any way I can project the slide?
Yes, you can. If you share your screen from your system, I want to assume you are on your system, on your laptop, you will see a session where you see share.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you please confirm if you can see my screen?
We can see your screen right now. We can.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much. Good afternoon. The chairman, LCCI, captains of the industries, regulatory, national oil companies, critical stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Engineer Duroji Elvis. Standing in for my boss, the Executive Director, MDGIF. He expressed his regret, his inability to join this section, both physically and virtually, due to unavoidably official issues. So I'll try my best to see that I give him a representation that he will be very proud of. So very quickly, without taking much of our time, today we'll be looking at MDGIF, the impact we have made from inception. It's a brand new Section 52, part of the PRA, establishing this fund. It's a unique one. Today, I'll be taking you through that and to what extent of progress we have made. So the impact we have made in the downstream gas sector, gas infrastructure development in Nigeria. So we're taking out the MDGIF perspective. So the outline will be, please confirm. Okay. Yeah. Can you still see my slide?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll take you through a quick introduction of MDGIF for purpose of those who are not acquainted with the MDGIF. MDGIF stands for Midstream Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund. So only for midstream and downstream, then it's a special fund meant for infrastructural development. So we look at the key goals, sources of the fund, purpose and targets, areas, opportunities around the investments we are catalyzing and the areas of focus. Take you through our corporate governance and investment process. What are those rules? Where there are no rules, then there's going to be chaos. So what are those corporate governance and process management that guides selection processes, decision-making, project monitoring, assets management, and all that? Then we'll take you a little bit, a snapshot on the drive, the extent of achievement we have made so far, and give you a glimpse of our look ahead on what we want to achieve as we progress. So Section 52, I earlier mentioned, established the fund. The PRA is a brand new one, and it's so unique that this fund is being housed in the Nigerian Midstream and Petroleum Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. So it's a special fund under the regulator. So the staffs of the regulator are the ones managing the fund. So if you can recall, the NMDPRO is made up of a union of PEV, PPRA, and DPRA. So this again can suggest how much competence we have both for technical and commercial ability to oversee this fund in the wisdom of the Act. So the main objective is one, to increase domestic gas consumption, tracking how much of this gas, impact of gas we are bringing up. Gas like LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, piped natural gas, CNG, compressed natural gas, then liquefied natural gas. These are the components of gas we are keeping our eyes very close. How much of impact we are making? How much of them are we increasing? That is what the Act is expected of the fund. By, again, encouraging private investment. Again, the Act is very much aware that the midstream and downstream gas infrastructures highly capital intensive, particularly the upfront costs are usually very huge. Before now, most of the players have been people who have parent companies outside Nigeria with a very good, very low interest funds. They pour them in. So most of them might be playing in the midstream. The first set of CNG mother stations and retailing facilities were not typically from Nigeria, but Nigerians were playing in the retail section, the refilling plants, and all that. But most Nigerians are not into, or private companies are not into the make of the intensive nature. But this fund is here now to catalyze, reduce the barrier as much as possible to allow new entries of these private bodies. Then the last one is reduce and eliminate gas flare. This is a very key one too. Again, a form of relief to the host community, from terms of the impact of those flare. Well, the fund is to utilize those flare, commercialize those flare, create jobs for the communities, and stop the flaring. Create job by way of infrastructure. So it's a multiplier effect. That is the whole essence of these three main objectives of the fund. So again, we need to let us know what are the sources of the funds so that we all know where our fund is coming. Like we have a culture in MDGIF that we know that this is our money, it's our children's money, because for every time you go and buy fuel in a filling station or somewhere, or you buy or utilize gas, you are contributing to this fund. A 0.5% levy on the wholesale price of petroleum products and natural gas sold in Nigeria, it's sources of the fund. Funds and grants from multilateral and bilateral institutions, these are sources of the fund. Earning interest and other income from the MDGIF equity fund. Even when we invest on this project, by the time we begin to get revenues from those fund investment, they are all going to be part of the source of fund. Then gas flare penalties from upstream and midstream operations, there are other sources, they are critical sources of the fund. Then donations as appropriate. These are where we get our money from. So, what's the whole essence of this fund, and what are the opportunities? What are those critical sectors that we need to know as a scope that guides what this fund can do, which area? First, the fund, what the fund does is, it's a government fund. Like I said earlier, it's a public fund. It's owned by everybody. And so what the fund it's meant to do is, it's an equity investment. It's not a loan, right? It's not a grant. So this fund is meant to invest government's own interest, right, in form of equity to project sponsors or promoters, people who are interested. They can come to us with their brownfield project, with their greenfield project. And when they come to us, maybe because due to the high cost, we are there to de-risk. The fund is to de-risk, to reduce significantly. We're going to see the barriers as much as possible and enable them, bring it to a level where their own funds or their own capital, whether by way of equity or loan or whatever, they can be able to allow them to come in and play so that we can be able to catalyze that their project. Then the opportunities around this fund, it's around midstream and downstream gas infrastructure. We can use this fund for now for upstream infrastructure. We can use to develop a NAG well. We can use this fund. We've seen people who have applied for some agricultural papers. We said, no, it is not within that area. It's specifically for midstream and downstream gas operation. And it's not for loan. Some people have equally asked for loan for grants, and that's not the intent of the law. So, and it's mainly around gas processing plants. Security of supply, these are facilities that can help us to ensure that this gas values additions, LPG, LNG, CNGs are produced and now supplied into the domestic market. The CNG mother stations, those are infrastructures which target so much around this gas processing plant sector. Then the other one is the transmission and distribution pipelines and the virtual pipelines. The pipelines carries the piped natural gas, which we refer to as the PNG. And again, you use the virtual means where you have your tube skids, your cascades and trucks that can help you to convey this product, LPG, CNG, LNG, from a point of supply to a point of utilization, where pipelines, there are no network. Pipeline network is cheaper if we have it, but where it is not available in the interim, we are now using this virtual pipeline to grow and develop opportunities and markets in areas like in the core north. There is LNG growing and revitalizing a lot of industries already dead as a result of high usage of diesel. We've seen all these products really making wave in that sector. So the gas box storage and terminal is equally a project that we support. Then the flare gas capture and utilization project is key because, again, the penalty, the fund from the sources of the fund, one of the major sources of the fund is from the gas flare penalty. So any project that has to do with gas project, that has to do with gas flare, it's number one on our table. We've hardly seen any project that has to do with flare out that has come to MTGIs that has not gone through. The budget for that is readily available, waiting for such projects. Anyone that comes, we ensure that it meets all those critical requirements, and the system quickly and absolutely ensure that we catalyze that project because of the significance. Then widespread retail and end users infrastructures. Again, we don't really sponsor. You can't come to us and you say we want us to sponsor just only one LPG refilling plant. We feel it's something an average Nigerian can do. So let's leave that. But if it is, say, you want to do like 20 LPG refilling plants, CNG mother stations, which again is like CNG, we'll get to see it's a strategic importance. Again, those are areas that we see as an attraction for us. They're high intensive industrial gas users. Again, you want to use it for power generation, where you have a heavy CNG, either regasification facilities around you or downloading facility, more than 1, 2, 3 scattered around strategically. We'll be very happy. They are quite capital intensive. So such projects are capital intensive. Those are the kind of projects that this fund will want to catalyze, we want to de-risk and enable intending project sponsors. The fund, I earlier said, is a catalyst there to reduce high upfront costs of gas infrastructure. So if you can see from the illustration, you see that we have aggregate of constraints. One, issues around demand. For example, CNG, most of us know the past two years, there has been so much of trying to Mr. President, and a couple of programs have been trying to see how we can catalyze or stimulate the market sector where CNG will be used for our vehicle. So it's a barrier. Another barrier there is inadequate infrastructure, right? That one is huge. We don't have pipelines covering the whole of Nigeria. They are not interconnected like what we have in developed country. If we have that existing, I'm sure the CNG issue will be very easy to implement. We'll just go and dump mother stations all over the world, and it will be very cheap. So it's a big challenge for us. But among that is fund challenges. The funding challenge is the highest among that, followed by the inadequate infrastructure, then the inconsistent regulations and the aggregate demand. You can see the regulation issue, and that is part of the wisdom behind the act, trying to make the funds to be housed by the authority, so that the fund will be well protected in terms of regulations and all that. We can leverage on all those institutional strengths of the authority. So the fund is going to solve the problem, the challenges around funding, infrastructure, and now by the virtue of being housed by the authority. So if we can knock off these three barriers, you can see significantly it's a huge catalyst that will bring down the initial upfront costs and allow Nigerians to be able to, private investors to come and play. So These are the corporate governance and process management we have in the fund. And I think it's important we know this. The MDGIF is made up of robust and corporate governance policies and frameworks and guidelines that ensure effective checks and balances. If you go to the NMDPRO portal, you will see our investment policy statements, documents. You'll see investment proposal templates that will guide you on how you can submit, how you can gather your documents and make submissions and which area, right? Then again, a project management framework too, we have that guides how our projects are being managed, monitored, and equally our assets by the time they are commissioned. So these are policies that are there guiding the way we do things so that no people we don't have to do things out of discretion. So that is the whole essence of those policy documents. Then we have proper due diligence and prudent investment practices among the staff. We have robust culture, standard due diligence practices in our selection and decision making. Project and portfolio monitoring processes, all in line with the Act and our policy statement. Then, like I talked about, a culture of transparency, integrity, and accountability and prudent practices is well instilled among the staffs. So in effective risk management, the fund has internal processes that are in line with the global best practices aimed at risk management and densification. So we'll look at key issues around the project we want to select, around gas supply agreement, around regulatory risk, around whether they have licenses, and by virtue of being an authority, we leverage on that, around the economics, the project viability, their strategic importance. I think we're going to talk about that later. Then innovation and ICT, it's something we are really working towards such that you can be at your home and go to the portal and apply for the fund, and everything will be processed. It's going to be very transparent from the point of project selection, submission to project selection, and the third party that will help us to carry out an independent assessment, technical and commercial evaluation. Or we want to use this portal to manage every stakeholders within the process of managing the fund. So this is our process. Just take us a little bit about what happens internally, how we look at your submission when it comes in. First, when you go to the MIPS, which is the investment policy document and template on how you submit, once you follow those processes, you make your submission. If it comes into our system, the first point of call is to after the submission, we do a preliminary evaluation. After preliminary evaluation, a screening and due diligence evaluation is done. Then eventually it goes to the Management Investment Committee. The Management Investment Committee takes a further detailed evaluation and equally give it out to a third-party transaction advisor to carry out an independent study and come up with evaluation and come up with their own findings and submit. So both the internal report and that of the third-party transaction advisors report are now forwarded. Recommendations are made to the governing council being headed by the Minister of State, Petroleum, and there they take the final decision. So those decisions comes as a final investment decision, and after which the contract is being made, and we'll now begin project proper. But what we look out for when the project comes in is the economic value of that project. Does it have any economic impact? Does it have a multiplier effect? Will it create jobs? How many jobs is it going to create? Right? How much of carbon emission will it reduce? Okay, and is it going to result to domestic gas? Is it going to bring gas to Nigerians? Nigerians are going to use those gas. Capacity growth. How is it going to impact on the GDP? How much of industries is it going to around that environment will be multiplied? Then we look at the national strategic goals of that project, the energy security, increasing gas consumption, as I mentioned earlier, the sustainability of the supply. We'll look at that. Then is it in line with government goals like the NGFCP We've been working with NUPROC to ensure that all those flare routes that has been awarded, we've been the one looking for them. Please, is anybody that has been awarded a flare route? Are they ready? Please come and take this fund. We are waiting for you and all that. So then we have the decade of gas. We are cooperating and working with them. What is the government thinking? What is their direction? We want to ensure that our strategy is in line with that. Then the PICNG. So you'll get to see later on how our fund is moving in line with this special strategy goal. So I've talked about the target sector, so let me not dwell on that. Then the technical feasibilities around whether we check the project, is it practicable? Is it adopted? Is it being practiced in Nigeria? You want to apply the technology you're adopting. But again, we rely so much on our colleagues in NMDPRA by virtue of the license to establish. Once we get that license to establish, we don't have to go deep because they have already taken care of that. Then issues around construction, readiness for constructions and all that. Once we have the license to construct from NMDPRA, the other directorate, we're good to go. Then commercial viabilities and project funding, we want to check if there is going to be a return on investment. Even though we are there to the risk, it's our fund. It's for posterity. We have to be accountable. Those funds have to be economical. It has to make a lot of economic sense. And we have to, once we go into those funds and the project is viable, because the whole essence of the project is to have a viable project that will create a multiplier effect and create jobs. So you must ensure that you're going to a project that will do that purpose and it must be viable. So once such project comes on and is good to run, then we will pull out of that project and get the value and take those money that we've been able to get from that and reinvest it in other projects. So I'll keep catalyzing as much. So what is our KPI is how much of project or how much of project we've been able to catalyze and all that. So debt service and financial obligations, all these are instruments we want to ensure check the viability of that project. Then sustainability growth. These are issues around risk. I mentioned that earlier. Host communities. All right, and all that, how will it impact on the environment? So this the project, just give you an idea of what we have achieved so that it's not going to look like we're just there. A lot of people don't know what is happening. The first batch, this one, effectively, our project implementation is just effectively about a year. We're just about 1 year. And this is what we have achieved within 1 year. And our executive director, he is a driver, he is a mover, he is an entrepreneur in nature. He wants things to be done, right? So, but again, what must be done right and be done through process. And this is exactly what you can see here. It's the output, the outcome of that. The first one, we got 5 mother stations, 41 daughter stations, and just only 1 gas processing plant in the first batch, right? You can see the volumes that are coming out from there. If all those projects come on stream, it's going to increase the domestic utilization of gas by 1.4%. of what we currently use. But when we now came to batch B, our strategy changed. We realized that we are making a lot of, we've been able to stimulate the interest and appetite of consumers. People are already converting vehicles, but there are a lot of long queues. So again, the security of supply, having more mother stations and gas processing plant that will bring the CNG down. So that was where we changed our policy. You can see the gas processing moved from 1 to 6. So we grew our gas processing from about 141,000 standard cubic meter per day to 3 million. Batch 2 gave us 3.4 million from 141,000 to 3.4. So what it simply means that we are going to have more gas, more CNG, more LNG into the domestic market by that. And that is going to increase our domestic consumption by 11.7%. So altogether, batch A and B, when they all come on stream, we are looking at some time from, we already have 4, they're already on, they're already commissioned. By the impact will be more obvious from early, mid, and late next year. We'll begin to see more of this project. If those projects come on stream, by 13% of domestic gas will be increased. And what it simply means by this analysis is that 13% of PMS that we currently consumed, our gas from MTGIF will replace 13% of the PMS we are currently consuming if we have to move all those projects to CNG and LNG. So this is going to be the significant impact. This is the spread of our projects. Our projects, we are very careful about meeting the strategic location so that our project will not just be only one place. So it's well scattered around the region. But if you can see, it's more situated around pipelines, because that's why we're trying to build more CNG mother stations, more LNG facilities in the south. Those are where the pipelines are. So while we're hoping that as we use LNG, we are using LNG to move towards the north. So what we're now looking forward is as the AKK comes on stream, you will begin to see that the north again will be highly, the intensity of our projects will be higher within those areas. So we are very much aware of the spread, the national spread of our project. So our recent achievement and look ahead, so far we've signed, we have 16 projects. We started with 6. Now we have 16 projects. We have 6 LNG plants. We have 6 CNG, we have 6 CNG daughter stations, but one of them is strategic. It's only 20 universities. So altogether, if you bring all together, we have close to about 41 or 48 CNG daughter stations all over the nation. Then 2 mother stations and 1 LPG depot. We will continue to work very within the scope, within the corporate governance, to see how we can continue to in the target of replacing 25% of PMS by our project. We're looking at that sometime next year, so that by the time we enter our batch C, we'll move from current 13%, so that about 25% of our project will replace the current consumption of PMS if we have to use all of them for CNG, for auto mobility. So again, the target again is to reduce 15% of the current gas flare. So at this, we want to say a very big thank you on behalf of my executive director for listening, and have a very wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I needless to say that the audience should clap for you. When a job is well done, is appreciated voluntarily. Once again, thank you so much for the good representation. Let's put hands together for him, please. Thank you, sir. So we go to the panel session, and I believe this session promises to be very rich and engaging. Just to announce that after the session, we'll have question and answer. I will urge that as the session goes on, please pen down your questions. I will decide the method later, either to give you a microphone to read out your questions, but my method is usually your name and your question. Some other people, when you give them a microphone like that, they want to turn the microphone, they want to turn the opportunity to a time to preach, to preach what they believe, or to school all of us on what we have not said together as a people. So I may decide to use that method, or I'll read out the questions myself, get your paper and read out. But let me allow us to, I'll decide which one will follow thereafter. Permit me to bring up stage the moderator for this session. I will introduce him, then he will bring up all his discussants, and in about 30 minutes that he has, 40 minutes, he will do justice to the session with his discussant, then we go to question and answer. Please welcome with me upstage Dr. Emeka Akabogo, SAN, Senior Partner at Akagobo and Associates. Let's clap for him, please. Dr. Emeka, so I'll hand over the mic to you. Okay, there's one there. Yes, let's power it. Then you bring them upstage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here with us this afternoon. I'd like to quickly proceed to invite the speakers for this afternoon session to join me on the stage. We have, in the order in which is written here, Mr. Oluwole Adama. I believe he'll be represented by the gentleman who just spoke. Okay. Then next is Dr. Gabriel Okweche, the Group Managing Director of Rain Oil, who I understand is represented by Mr. Emmanuel Omojine. Please, to my immediate left. Thank you. Next, I'll invite Mrs. Moroti Adedoyin Adeyinka. She's the chairman, Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, represented by Mr. Femi Adewale, who is the executive secretary of the association. Thank you very much. You may sit on the extreme right there. Yes, let's have a lady right beside me. The next will be Mr. Hugh Stockman, who is the chairman of the Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria, MEMAN. Mrs. Ogechi Nkwoji, please a round of applause for her. He's my immediate right, yeah. I think that's all. Okay. So to preface our discussions, we've had a very interesting engagement. Okay, I think we're supposed to invite the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency, right? Okay, so we'll invite the representative of the Authority Chief Executive of NMDPRA, Mr. Farouk Ahmed, in the person of Mr. Dimowo. Thank you. Thank you. So the sessions today have been very, very insightful, very enlightening, and I think that they set the scene for what we want to discuss. The theme indicates scaling oil production, which really is largely an upstream discussion. So we will focus on the downstream components of the discussions, which is optimizing refining capacity and ensuring efficiency in the supply chain. That will be the focus of our discussions. And this is important because the downstream market has experienced a very interesting year, if I may put it that way. Across the segments in which the downstream is defined, we will notice that there has been a lot of tension and there's been a lot of controversy, but at the same time, there's been largely a liquid market, by which I mean there has been petroleum product supply largely. So what do we want to achieve and what do we want for the markets? We want an efficient market. We want a market that is run fairly, and we want a market that is sustainable. That's essentially what we want to achieve. And it is these goals that will define the discussions which we'll be having this afternoon. It's very good we have the key associations which represent the markets. And it is these associations that, the members of these associations really, that know what they are going through and what they need to be done and how well CIA and its provisions have materialized in recent time. So to kickstart the discussions, I'd like to pose a question. First of all, to the Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria. And this question is with regard to fuel distribution and labor. So we are all familiar with the issue of efficiency or absence of thereof with regard to the Nigerian distribution network. Now, in view of the recurring labor union crisis, what logistics frameworks or infrastructure investments or technology adoptions would you think are necessary from particularly from legal and policy adjustments to ensure seamless fuel supply nationwide? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Akabogu. And on behalf of the chairman of the Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria, I want to thank the LCCI for inviting me, for this conversation. So, well, I think it's important for us to probably step back a bit and look at where we are coming from as an industry. We started off with a state-owned dominance in our industry. We were plagued with energy insecurity. We've had the issues of queues, subsidy, importation of refined fuel, exportation of crude oil. So we've had all that. But there's been some progress being made thanks to the passage of the PIA by the late President Buhari, and obviously the removal of the subsidy by the current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And also the separation of the roles between policymaker, regulator, the NNPC and NMDPRA. So we are grateful. We've seen some progress being made, but we still have this. And it really has a lot to do with our over-reliance on road transportation and our underutilization of the national pipeline network. So that's the key, one of the key things. Obviously, we know that if we have, in order to get at least seamless and sustainable petroleum products distribution, we would need to revamp, revitalize, bring up our pipeline network, our pipeline system. So we need that because obviously we know the advantages of pipelines. I mean, it's cost effective, it's secure, it's efficient. And once we have these pipelines operational, I mean, we can move products from Atlas Cove to Mosimi to Apapa, to the inland depots in Ibadan, Ilorin, Ore, Enugu. So we can have constant pumping of petroleum products from the coastal refinery locations, to all your storage depots. So it's really important. But now, at least, so that's one of the major things that we need to focus on. But now we understand that we are focused on road transportation. That's the main thing that's being used. So in order to improve that, we need to look at a few items. We need to improve our road networks. We need to improve our roads, especially the road network around the jetties, key depots, even the highways, the interstate connectors, the loading corridors. We need to work on that. We also need to look at modernizing and standardizing our petroleum products haulage fleet, mandating them to have, up-to-date automotive technology operations in their trucks. We also need to consider adopting CNG powered trucks. We obviously know the advantages of that, cleaner energies, it would help the drivers, just safer delivery of the products. And we also need to think about adopting transport system management to help with supporting the route mapping and real-time discharge coordination of our products. So these are really key. But one other thing that I think is also really, really important that we don't really seem to talk about a lot, and it's really salient point, is as an industry and as industry operators, we need to learn to work together, really. We need to learn to really work together and truly work together. Work together in terms of optimizing our costs, optimizing our logistics, even work together and collaboratively in infrastructure development and in having a unified voice. And that will help with a lot of policy support and policy issues.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. You've highlighted very important components that we need to address. So road networks, technology, and collaboration. I'll come to you on that, one or two parts of that shortly. In the panel, we have two industry representation by two industry groups. So I'll come to you shortly, Dapma, but let me speak to an operator. So I'll be asking you, Dr. Mojine, from an operator point of view, are there specific components of the Petroleum Industry Act which you think may require urgent review in view of the experiences that you have encountered in the course of the last 4 years?
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Akagbogu. Standing on the existing protocol, my best regards to the president and the team for putting us together and inviting us here today. On the PIA, yeah, from the establishment in 2021, there have been clear benefits in terms of at least giving a clear framework for the industry. We've seen at least clarity in terms of the relevant policy bodies or regulatory bodies in terms of the upstream separation with the commission and then the midstream downstream with the authority, of course, and of course the role of the NNPC. So it's clarified at least the framework or regulatory framework in that regard. We've also seen laudable initiatives in terms of the midstream and downstream gas infrastructure fund, which is critical. Areas of, I'll say concern, I would say have to do with, okay, there have been clamors, depends on which of the groups you are looking at. Talk of the community, there'll still be clamor of the adequacy of the host community fund. I know there's still pushback on whether how adequate that is. In terms of driving or encouraging investment within the sector, I would have to say there have been positives. We've seen within this year alone, there have been a lot of investment attracted into the country. The last report I was reading recently, we're talking about $18 billion compared to 25% of that this time last year. Last year, we're talking about maybe 4 billion. That was the figure we're looking at. So there have been significant investments coming into the oil and gas industry, all tied to the comfort, I'll use that word, that the PIA has given investors or the investing public. Areas for, well, I would say there would need for improvement or clarity would have to be with the, will still be with the commercial or I'll call the fiscal areas. That's where I know players or operators have had concerns, and it's more critical within the area of gas. In terms of the commercialization, I know we've said it's supposed to be a fully liberalized industry now, fully commercialized, but there's the pushback from operators that there's still some level of control, as it were, and that's not far-fetched. The fact that the government is pushing to ensure that we domesticate as much as possible our gas assets. We have a target. We have currently, we've had the figures bandied around even for twice today, 210 trillion cubic standard feet. But what are we actually producing? Circa 1.5% of that is what we are producing a day. So it makes it take us about, say, 80 years or so to use what is even the proven reserve we have. And we are talking about transition within countries are talking about net zero from 2030, which is not feasible anymore, of course, but circa 2050, which is a more certain timeline for us to see more evolution in terms of the renewable focus. So if we have the resource, we need to ramp up our gas utilization or domestication from where it is now to significantly higher volumes. And we're talking of moving from our current 7.5 billion cubic feet a day to at least, I think I would say triple that figure. That will come with a significant capital requirement. So for investors to put that kind of capital down, we're talking of hundreds of billions of dollars is what is forecasted for what we require to optimize or the gas reserves we have. So unlike crude, where you get your production, your exploration, do your drilling campaign, you get the product out of the ground, it has a ready mature market, it has ready offtake. For gas, it's now asking investors to put the money down before having a clear market or clear offtake agreement. So the commercials need to be much more attractive. There are some incentives that have come up, especially at the downstream, midstream, in terms of like for the CNG initiative, waivers on duties that have come ancillary to the PIA, of course, waivers on import of CNG equipment, LPG equipment, and the likes. But for the big ticket items, which is now, as talked about during the MD GIF presentation, where you want people to bring in money for producing assets, those are higher ticket CapEx investments, and there needs to be more clarity or more, I'd say, more liberalization of the commercial terms around gas, the gas pricing. I think that's I would say those 2 points would be my take on what could be improved on the PIA.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, it's a very, very important point you've noted, and I'm sure the gentleman from MDGIF may have one or two comments to make on that shortly. I'll go to you, Mr. Adewale. Now, you represent a group that has been importing products into the country for many years. And in recent time, the local refining capacity has increased. Now, there's a suggestion that the increase in the local refining capacity may not have been in the best commercial interests of your members. It's a suggestion and it's a narrative which is out there. So I'd like to ask you, in view of the likelihood that the domestic refining capacity will actually increase in the near future, what market adjustments or interventions do you think are necessary to ensure that your members operate profitably and that the refineries equally operate sustainably to meet domestic demands?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Akabogu, and once again, congratulations on your elevation as the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I represent DAPMAN, and I'm representing the chairman of DAPMAN, who is unavoidably absent. What do we need to ensure that we operate profitably? We are not operating in a silo, in a vacuum. We're operating in an ecosystem. So the first thing is we must ensure that we collaborate and work with every other stakeholder in the sector, especially in the downstream sector, midstream and downstream sector, because they will give us the feedstock that we are supplying to our retail outlets. Our prices must align, and our supply priorities must align with what the feedstock refinery is giving us. And it stems from our collaborating with these other units. We have never neglected collaboration, and I must stress that. We have never at any point in time neglected collaboration. Yes, we may have had issues of disagreement and serious disagreements on at what price are you giving me and at what price am I taking it so that I remain profitable. And that is an ongoing discussion. I did mention briefly before we stepped up that, oh, I was excited until I saw some numbers this morning and I'm like, how do we continue? How do we go on? But the end of it is that we'll keep talking, because if the refiners will have their own, they have their own build-up price that leads to their sales price to us, the depot owners. And we depot owners also have our logistics costs and built-up cost. Our prices and the supply must align. And then there are other things. Partnership is key. Collaboration and partnership is key. And we keep talking. No matter how much we disagree, we still have to come back and talk. And the laws and the regulations that guide the sector are well expressed. And it is only our belief that the regulator, which thank God they're also here and all the spaces that we are, that whatever law regulation that is applicable at every point in time is enforced, monitored closely, so that everybody in the system, all stakeholders will be, because if we have a situation in which somebody steps out of line without adhering to those laws and regulations, that's when we have skirmishes and issues like this. But for as long as we are ready to collaborate, for as long as we are ready to partner with all other stakeholders, I want to believe that we will remain profitable. And the good thing is, even when with all the envisaged local refining capacity, the PRA graciously allowed import. So in a situation where local stock is not profitable to you, you pick from the import stock. And I would like Nigerians to understand that importing is not against the law. If the law allows it, then it means it is possible, it is feasible. The people we elected who fashioned out this law and put that clause there that you either buy from the local refiners or import, they understood one thing, that don't limit your source to one place. If perchance, or like we have issues right now, we read in the papers that the refinery is having, our local refinery, government refineries are comatose for now, even though efforts have been made to bring them up to speed. But the local refinery is giving us product, but apparently it's not giving enough. So we have the option of importing, or even if the price does not tally, then if the numbers are not green, so to say, profitable, then we go for import, which is profitable. So, but collaboration is key, partnership is key, and I think we'll remain profitable there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's important that you indicated that you're ready to collaborate. I'm going to come back with you with a question, which I'll give you the foundation of now for you to think about. There is actually a public perception that members of your group or association in the private sector operators are there only to profiteer and do not have the best interests of Nigerians at heart. It's a perception, which I know may not necessarily be true. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak to that shortly. But just before that, Mr. Dimo, as a regulator, you are familiar with the challenges which the market has faced in recent months, applying to the rights or obligations, or if you may say liabilities, between the interplay of the refineries and the importers and the coastal storage operators. Could you give us an indication of what the authority is doing as a regulator to ensure that the provisions of the PIA are enforced and that there's fair play in the market for the benefit of consumers?
Thank you, and Dr. Akabogu. From the part of the regulator, there is the crude supply obligation, domestic crude supply obligation that is specified in the PIA. Last year, in 2024, about 75 million of crude was supplied to the PRP, that's the Dangote refinery, which it refined and distributes within Nigeria. We also have had governments initiate the crude for Naira policy, which up till now is an ongoing issue. Furthermore, the authority is also closely monitoring the industry, where we notice that they need to actually import. We would issue the necessary documentation and approvals for such imports. But we are trying as much as possible to ensure that when it comes to petroleum products, we think Nigeria first. The refinery is supplied crude from our local producers, that's the IOCs producing upstream. And in this year so far, they've supplied about 70 crude for local refineries. So we are also ensuring that there is fair play in the market in terms of the product that is distributed as well as pricing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that answer. MC, you are looking at me. We've barely started. Yes, but you know, this is a very important component of this discussion. Could we have at least another 10 minutes? Please. Thank you very much. Mr. Duruji, I don't know if you can hear us. Mr. Elvis Duruji, is this still online?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. So you heard some of the challenges which are being faced by operators. So could you give us an indication? Number one, are there specific success stories that we have to share from an MDGIF point of view in terms of beneficiaries so far? Are there very specific success stories that you could share with us? And then two, with regard to the environments for investments, which has been highlighted as a challenge, given the what the requirements of the MGIF are. Could you offer some pathway for operators who may be interested in optimizing the fund?
Thank you very much. Confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. So in the presentation, I was able to answer those questions, but I will try again and see how I can emphasize them. So I talked about, let me start with the second question. I talked about the pathway, the opportunities, and the various processes by which you can access our fund. If you go to our NMDPRA website, you're going to see the investment policy statement. It's a document. It's going to guide you on the processes, what are the requirements, the documents you need to prepare around your company, around the project technicalities, around viabilities and all that. So you go there and follow it and apply, and you will take it up from there. In terms of what we have done, there was a table I shared. Talked about, well, apart from all the documents and process, we've been able to develop corporate governance, but more importantly, we've been able to grow the fund. And again, the most important one is the objective of catalyzing private sector partnership equity, building more partnership in projects. So we've done batch 1, batch A, we were able to establish 5 CNG mother stations, 41 daughter stations, and 1 gas processing plant. In batch B, in fact, that 1 gas processing plant is a flare-out project. In batch B, we have more gas processing plants. 2 of them is a flare-out project that we use the gas that are currently being flared. We are stopping the flare, converting it to an LNG plant, and use that gas, that LNG, use it to power our industries, and then LCNG for mobility's sake. So we have grown the gas. If all our projects comes on stream today, our the gas that will be coming out from our project will replace 13% of the PMS that are currently consumed. So we have 48 daughter stations and 7 processing plants and 7 daughter mother CNG mother stations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Elvis. Thank you very much for that clarification. As we wind down, just very quickly, but I'd like to start with you, Mr. Adewale. You know, the perception issue. I think it's important that DAPMA begins to clear that.
Thank you very much. It's unfortunate that the perception has somehow been sustained over the years. For every system, you have the good, you have the bad. At the subsidy era, yes, there were a few bad actions taken by some people, but it doesn't mean that that is still sustained up till now. I can assure you of that. I've been the executive secretary of DAPMA for 11 years running, and I can vouch for the integrity of DAPMA members. And I actually worked in a member company for 20 years before I joined DAPMA, so I can vouch for their integrity. I can tell you, as of today, fuel price in petrol station is going for probably about $9.20, $9.25. But this morning, based on the numbers that we have, to bring in fuel, to buy fuel from Dangote Refinery and take to any depot in Lagos is going to cost us 918 naira. We're selling at 920 and we are landing at 918. What more could be sacrificial than that? What I'm saying in essence is, a lot of times, what we try to do is have a positive as an aggregate on our business dealings. Many times, marketers, depot owners take the heat for Nigerians because they just want to be able to give the fuel to Nigerians. It is not every time that they make profit. At the end of the year, yes, you may see some profit, which is the aggregate of all their business transactions from January to December, or depending on their 12-month annual report basis. But it is not every time that they make profit. So when Nigerians go about that marketers are a cabal, marketers are this or that, it saddens me because I know, I work with them, and I know somebody goes to sleep expecting a profit on a cargo of, a standard cargo of PMS, probably between 13 and 15 billion, you make a profit of 180 million. If perchance there is any hitch in the system, that profit is wiped out and it becomes a loss. But the marketer has to bear it because we want to sell, we want to remain competitive. If others are selling at that competitive rate, at that rate, we want to remain competitive because for some reason or the other, logistics efficiency may favor them. But for you, hitches or whatever could have caused you to have a higher cost. At the end of the day, you are losing money. So most times, depot owners and marketers lose money more than they make. But at the same time, on the aggregate, we want to ensure that we remain profitable. So it's wrong notion to think that marketers are a cabal or how will I put it now, out to swindle Nigerians. No, we want to give Nigerians fuel, good quality fuel in all nooks and cranny of this country, good quality fuel at the best price possible. So we take the heat many times, but we make a little profit, and you give us that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I mean, they're clapping, so they must be very happy with it. Ms. Mpochi, so on this subject of collaboration, which the authority mentioned and which has been re-emphasized, there's certainly been collaboration, but what do you think, is there an angle or a method to the collaboration that you think could actually achieve what the market needs that hasn't been achieved before now?
Thank you so much for your question. Yes, it is good to hear that the NMDPRA has, did talk about collaboration. I've mentioned it as well, and Mr. Adewale has talked about collaboration. I think we are doing a good job. Obviously, it's a work in progress. We are actually speaking in terms of the players, in terms of the market. We are speaking to each other. We are trying to understand each other's pain points. And I think it's getting better. Is there anything that we are missing? I would just say it's just a work in progress. And now we are trying to understand each person's pain points, like I said. So we're talking to each other, we're talking to the regulators, and we're just trying to have an inclusive type of growth. So that's what is really important to us as MIBAN. It's supposed to be an inclusive movement. So this is what we're actually trying to preach. And like Mr. Adewale said, the whole idea really is to ensure the consumers are our main focus. They are the main focus for MIBAN especially. So we are trying to make sure that consumers get product at the right price, it's affordable, and it's accessible. So all we're just trying to push for is energy security. So
okay, thank you very much. Emmanuel, now from a long-term point of view for investments for Nigerian downstream and the broader oil and gas industry, would you have any suggestions on how long-term investments could be attracted into the markets? You've heard the opportunities set up by the MDGIF, but beyond the MDGIF, how could that happen?
Okay, for long term, I'm not sure we actually should be looking at long term. We should be looking at medium, short to medium term now for the country. This is where we are. For oil and gas, we're looking at our core resource, crude. We have a reserve of about 37 billion barrels reserve, and our production now, our OPEC quota, we are barely meeting. Well, if you remove distillates, we are barely meeting our OPEC quota of 1.5 million barrels per day. So I know the short-term target of the government is to get us to 2 million barrels per day production, and more medium-term 3 million barrels. So let's say almost doubling our current production. So that's on the upstream end of that. So looking at our production too, we are also the target for Nigeria, as we heard from the earlier sessions too, is to get us to a position of self-sustainability and even being a regional hub. We've heard that over time, where we are even a regional refining hub for whether it's West and Central Africa, where we can actually export. So that also has significant refining investment required. The Dangote refinery, 650,000 barrels per day. If you add the online refineries, we are still not up to 1 million barrels per day if they are combined in terms of what the capacity of what they will do at full capacity. So if we're talking of ramping up to 3 million, a lot of investment is still required. So we talked about the MDGIF. Will not even be enough. We need significantly more investment. We're talking about the likes of the AFC, Afrexim, and it has to be regional, I would say, within the continent and within Nigeria, because we are seeing a lot of the global investments move towards renewables, away from fossil fuels. Last year, we had about 2 trillion naira dollar investments in the industry, and oil and gas only got about maybe less than 10% of that in terms of the global kind of funding we had for the last year. So increasingly at the global level, we're seeing less investment. So if we're going to get investment for crude, for oil and gas investment, which is our own, we talked about energy security and equitable transition, as those are the words you keep hearing, that we have to protect our own requirements as a country and as a continent. So requirements for that, you need to have sellable or bankable projects. And the presentation from the MDGIF gave a kind of an outlook of what any financer, the likes of the development institutions will actually be looking at. It has to be, your clear feasibility studies have to be well done. Governance, they're looking at governance, your governance profile. So for a company bringing a project up, what kind of governance, who are the backers of that company or the parties behind that project? And even for funding now, there's a lot of focus on ESG. So you have to make sure your project aligns with environmental, social, and governance requirements. It has to align. So those factors have to be clearly incorporated in any project now to attract the relevant funding. That said, funding has to be done domestically. It has to be funded by Nigerians, larger scale Africans, for ourselves. We're not going to get that funding from anyone else.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very, very much. Final question to the authority, and I think I'll just make it short. By the time we're having this session next year, so October or November next year, do you think that the gaps which we have seen so far with regard to crude oil allocation and market distribution and pricing, do you think from a regulator's point of view that they would have been solved?
Thank you for the question. The projection that we are having based on our crude oil production, daily crude oil production, it has actually been on an increase. And we also believe that once we have increased production, the allocation for domestic refining shall also definitely be increased. The crude for Naira is still ongoing, and NNPC and DPRP just signed a contract, another contract, a 2-year contract that would see NNPC with its joint ventures partners supply crude to Dangote refinery. So hopefully, we're sure by this time next year, there would be increased domestic refining in country. We're also believing that there will be a better collaboration in the industry between the players.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just want to thank the panel for a very, very engaging and insightful session. I'd like to say that the takeaway from this panel really has been the importance of collaboration, and that things are not necessarily where they should be now, but that everybody is committed towards ensuring that the market grows to the efficiency level that we desire. Having said that, I know that next week, all the levers of the market across supply, finance, shipping, trading, regulation will be converging here in Lagos again for the OTL Africa Downstream Energy Week. I think that's a great opportunity for us to collaborate, and we'll say, as Mr. Adeola has just said, see you next week at OTL. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, SAN. You have done so much, wonderfully well, I must confess. You said I was pressing your neck. I wasn't pressing your neck. I was keeping all the time. Thank you so much. You know, one of my duties is to keep up to time and make you more happier than you came. Once again, we'd like to thank the discussant, very powerfully discussed, led by a very senior advocate of Nigeria. I want him to be the senior advocate of the masses. Thank you so much. So we would like to take photograph. Some of our leaders would like to take we'll do 2 things together. We'll take the photograph, then we'll give you your plaques. Mr. President, sir. Immediate past president also, and the chair of the group. Please, let's join in this photograph. Please, let's take. Yes. Thank you, sir. Mr. President, sir. This way, Mr. President, sir. Yes. Thank you. Past President, sir. Chair, please let's. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. SAN. Thank you. So we take like 2 or 3 shots. This is number 1. Francis? Are you good? So the second one, let's have the last two here. Step out. The last two there, step out. Thank you. Let's take this, Francis. Are you good? Thank you so much. The last one now will now be at where the president is giving out the plaques to each of our discussants and our leaders. Can I have Vivian, please help me with the plaques, please? Let's be fast about that. We are keeping the president standing, please. Which one is that? Okay. First is Dr. Emeka Akabo, the SAS. Are they at the center? No, a step this way, sir, so that you could be at the center. Dr. Gabriel Ogweshe and his representative. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Engineer Farouk Ahmed to be received by its representative. Mrs. Moroti Adeyinka. Thank you, sir. Mr. Stockman. Thank you, man. I said it. A woman was representing a man. I like that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I'm told that we have about 2 questions to be answered, but to be asked. So I'll get to the microphone. So, like I said, my policy around the question is your name and the question so that we can save time. So can I have a show of hand for the 2? 1. Okay, that's 1 question. Thank you. Your name?
Good afternoon. I want to ask Mr.
Use the microphone, sir.
Hello, I'm Salisu. Mr. Emmanuel, you talk on net zero framework 2015. So what practical steps your company is taking to meet up with that target at the short or midterm?
Okay, practical step to meet up with the set date.
Okay, I mentioned the net zero target. I know globally there was an initial target of about 2030, which a number of countries signed up to, especially the IOC signed up to, especially during COVID. But I know those targets have been pushed, is it backwards or forwards now? Pushed back. We're hearing now 2050 because, of course, as much as I talk about net zero, for Africa, I keep saying Africa because we are part of a bigger subset. We're at we contribute less than 2% maximum to global emissions, and we're 18% of the global population. So when we put ourselves under that kind of pressure, it needs to be equitable. We need to know exactly what we are committing to. We still have, for Nigeria, at least less than 60% or about 6% of people have access to electricity. So just to put clear in that box that those targets has to be realistic. So what we as a company are doing, of course, we need to be on track with the movement of transition and, of course, managing our environmental emissions, our carbon footprint. So we've set up our own ESG framework as a company. That's actually will be published even as early as this year. It's been a work in progress since last year. So that clearly outlines certain targets we have in terms of our good granular things to do with water consumptions, what kind of pollution, how we monitoring and tracking any kind of pollution we have at our terminals, at our outlets. In terms of power, where we have cleaner solutions for power, yes, which is for things like solar, several of our retail outlets and plants. Gradually, that clear targets set for those. So we have those solutions powering a number of our outlets now. So of course, it goes across with our already existing social responsibility as a corporate organization, and then governance framework. So the ESG framework and policy captures clearly what our targets are in that regard.
All right. Thank you, sir. Last question at the back here, the last one. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. My name is Doro Akpofure, and my question is to the Executive Secretary for DAPMAN. Okay, so the question is just what other commercial opportunities that members of DAPMAN are exploring currently? So beyond the immediate Nigerian market, I mean, are we also exploring maybe the regional market? I mean, but basically DAPMAN members. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The saying goes that where you have sugar, the ants will gather. Where it is possible to make money, you will see Nigerians there to make money, and we are Nigerians. We actually do take product from Dangote Refinery. Some of my members exported to South Africa and other African countries. That's on that side, on the export. Then we are also not lagging behind in our investments in CNG. Part of the data you have given by the online are part of our investments. And as I'm here now, I have three of my principals here. He's an MD of Rain Oil. He is the MD of Swift Oil. He is the MD of Ibafol. It is their investments that I can aggregate and put together as investments of DAPMAN. So they are not sitting idle. They have investments in daughter stations, in mother stations, in retail outlets, and they are exporting product. Jet fuel was exported from Dangote Refinery to South Africa, and diesel was also exported. So we are also doing that. But the core of our business is downstream retail Nigeria, depot operations. And that's why we want that one to also be buoyant so that we can remain relevant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. On that note, we'd like to call it a wrap. But just before we officially have our sign out, I'd like to take the last photograph where we can have the representative, where we have the Director General of the Chamber represented. Madam DG, please. I need those, with the permission of President, I need you to join us with this photograph. Director General, yes. Let's, Francis, do we use it or take a step above this? Okay. Yeah, this way. Yeah, this way. Yeah, yes, sir. This way, sir. Yeah. Come this way, sir. Thank you. Mr. Collins, move a bit. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you so much. I know it's about time that our hands and mouths get very busy, but just before we go into that room of busyness, I'd like to have, for a vote of thanks, the Vice Chairman of the sector, Petroleum Downstream Group here at SCCI. Please put your hands together for Mr. Oludare Talabi for a vote of thanks.
So thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for attending our downstream session. We want to appreciate everyone for coming. We would especially like to appreciate representative of NMDPR. We would like to appreciate the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce, President and the DG. Thank you very much. We would like to appreciate all the members of our panel, including the leader of the panel. They did an excellent job delegating, organizing, and all the members that spoke very intelligently. Thank you very much. And to all our esteemed members, thank you once again. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. On that note, I'd like to say we have come to a close of our event today. But please, just before we step out, can we please be upstanding for the national anthem for a close, just as we began with it.
Bright and sound may deliver, in brotherhood we stand. By gentle and proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.